So before I even met the guys in Sydney, we'd been using a couple of their pieces of kit in the Duck, probably for 3 or 4 years before that. One was a kettle that you could set the temperature to anywhere from 50 to 100 to boiling. And this was incredibly important for a range of teas because some of the really delicate green teas, or whether you're using the tips of the plant, need a much lower temperature. Otherwise you end up with tea with real kind of bitter tannins and it gets ruined. And it was a juicer that juiced very instantly, so you kept all the freshness and zinginess of the fruit. And that was part of a drink that went with the dessert on the menu of the Duck. What really kind of set the relationship off is when I was in Sydney doing some filming for MasterChef, and I did a tour and some other bits and bobs in Australia, and I went to see the guys in their offices and studios, shown through the whole kind of factory. And I remember I got made a cup of coffee with the coffee machine. And even before I tasted the coffee, what really kind of grabbed me was there's a timer on the front. And a couple of years earlier in the Duck, I got quite obsessed about coffee and trying to keep the crema on the coffee and get the best extraction of it. And it's really critical, the temperature of the water, the grind of the coffee, how fresh the coffee has been ground, and the length of time it takes for the water to drip through the ground coffee. And 25 seconds was a kind of the magical time. If it's quicker than that, then you don't get enough extraction. If it's longer, it's over-extracted and overly bitter. And the other thing was the test where you put a little teaspoon or coffee spoon of sugar on, you just drop it on top of the crema in the cup, and it should take about 5 to 10 seconds to fall through. And that shows you've got a really good crema. So to see a machine where the design of it had taken all these things into consideration was amazing. And then to taste the coffee, it was one of the best cups of coffee I'd ever had. And then we started brainstorming all the possible things that we could do in the future. It took me through all the other pieces of kit in the range. And what I loved about it is every single piece of kit has something, at least one thing about it in its design features that's been clearly done for the benefit of the cook. It's kind of working backwards. You know, what do we do in the kitchen when we cook? How can our life be made easier? And how can we get a better result from our cooking? And the whole range ticks all those boxes. I'm not sure if it's just the science or also the fact that I'm a big kid and I love gadgets. And I think when you have a piece of kit that looks great, then performs really well, plus you've got the technical side of it that's been really carefully considered to get the best results, that's when, for me, the whole range became incredibly exciting. For me, there was two things. One, to be involved in an existing range of kit that I think doesn't really have any competition or opposition because it's so good and each piece of kit has a point of difference. But when I met the guys on the technical side, it was the possibility of developing new products, and the fact that I'm going to have the opportunity with them to brainstorm all areas of the kitchen, and that is really exciting. All of the bits of kit we had in Bray, and we put them through their paces. In terms of some of the cooking appliances, it's incredibly important to have an even temperature distribution. So we use thermal imaging cameras to look at to see if there were hot spots and really measure the temperature at different parts of the cooking environment to make sure you're going to have a completely constant and accurate level of cooking. And all the guys at the Duck, it took all the pieces of kit home and tested them. And I would say that if for any reason, God forbid, that the restaurant closed, we could have a pretty successful new business at product testing, destructive testing. For example, we had a lock, special lock on the door, coded lock on the door of the house where we have the lab, we have the development kitchen, the chocolate room, and the prep room. And this lock was designed by the US military. Within 2 days, we'd broken it. So any machine that stands up to the Fat Duck test and the Fat Duck chefs taking them home is, I think, it's going to stand the course.